All right, Steeler fans, it's Friday, the second half of the podcast, which means it's time for the All Betz Are Off with Jeremy Betz. What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
Man, it's good. Feel like I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off after the holidays, but doing all right. How about yourself?
So you feel like a member of the Steelers defense is what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Just no communication, just flying by the seat of my pants. You're freelancing on the back end.
Constant pointing, like, no, you go there, you go there. Your wife's confused, everyone's confused, and your kids end up.
It was the kid's fault. She's not communicating with me. Yeah.
Your kid ends up sitting in the car by themselves, and you and your wife are just running around the house. So anyway,
that's right. That's all it is.
Hope you had a great holiday. Hope you had a great New Year. It's been a while, and here we have this game coming up with the Bengals. This is an odd game in a lot of ways. First and foremost, were you surprised that the NFL put the Browns and the Ravens before this game so that the Steelers would know whether or not they're playing for the division or not? Some people say that Steeler fans have basically said the Browns are not going to beat the Ravens anyways. Yeah. But were you surprised the NFL did that?
I was kind of surprised. I think the intrigue, it automatically hits when you're talking about four teams that are on Hard Knocks, and then they all play on that Saturday, right? And there were definitely scenarios where it felt like that those four teams would need to be playing at the same time to make for the most fair situation for competition. So it makes you wonder. I mean, I'm not saying that there's anything, I guess, schemed up by the NFL to make this a certain way. I don't know. There's been talk that, they did this so that the Steelers would rest their starters and Cincinnati's going to win so that the Bengals can get in the playoffs because they're going to be a better product than maybe one of the other teams that would be in the 7th seed. I don't necessarily see that, but it is interesting to me that they would split these two games up and that they would put them on Saturday. That feels like a marketing ploy because of the Hard Knock situation. All AFC North, all on Saturday. But I guess it doesn't bother me too much. I think the Steelers are going to play their game no matter what, personally.
HBO and Max might have said to the NFL, hey, if you could give us an extra day of editing, we could have an even better product on Tuesday. So why don't you put them all together at the same? I don't know if that's factual or not, but I'm sure that it had something to do with it, the Hard Knocks part of it. Yeah. But I look at this and let's talk about the people in the fan base that think the Steelers might rest players. Their injury report is pretty much crystal clean outside of Dante Jackson with a back injury. I don't know why you would rest anyone in this game.
Yeah.
Because what do you have? It would be different if they had won 2 of the 3 games that they lost leading into this week. They didn't. They lost all 3, and it was pretty embarrassing fashion in every single one. I don't see the reasoning behind resting players. Do you?
I don't. You have to go full bore. I mean, you have to pretend like your playoffs start now if you're Pittsburgh. I believe that because you've just been playing so poorly. And if you're unable to build any momentum going into the dance, it kind of feels like it's already curtains, right? And you at least need to be extremely competitive in this game and lose because the Bengals, offense is incredible and you just weren't quite up to the task. I mean, you gotta feel confident that the team walking into Houston or Baltimore has a chance. And after the way the 3 games prior have been played, I don't think you can feel comfortable that way, especially if they have to go to Baltimore. So get something going, get players back into good communication, back into whatever was working in the middle of the season. We got to bring more of that back.
What would that entail? Everyone says like we got to get right, we got to get back. We get, the players are saying it, coaches are saying it. We just got to find that recipe for success.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of key takeaways and not turning the ball over, what does that look like?
I don't know, Jeff. I really don't. I don't know the formula that is. I think what it looks like is like I've been saying it. I wrote an article about it that's going to come out here soon. That the Steelers rely on being just better than you on defense and assignment soundness, if you will, on defense. There's not a lot of scheme upgrades or advantages that you're getting from Mike Tomlin, Terrell Austin. So they rely on those a lot. And then on offense, we know the formula there. You got to be able to run the football and you got to be able to hit deep shots over the top to George Pickens and let Pat Freiermuth work underneath in that regard. So what you have to do is get back to that somehow, make that how you are dictating that to defenses when you're on offense, and then shutting down offenses by being better than them and playing sound assignment football. And if the Steelers aren't able to go back to those things, which I think they were doing that in the middle of the season, then, maybe we go back and say, well, maybe teams didn't know how to prepare for Russell Wilson in a Steelers uniform for the first 5 weeks, and then they figured it out. So, or maybe the defense just doesn't do enough schematically to where offenses have just figured them out. I don't know. So we'll see if that's the case, or if the Steelers have another gear they can take to get back to what I thought was an AFC championship contending type team. I wasn't necessarily saying a Super Bowl contender, but somebody who you wouldn't be surprised if they were dressing up on conference championship weekend.
Well, let me give you my take, and I'll get your thoughts on it after that. I think it comes down to health, because when you think about it, before this 3 games in 11 days stretch started, and I'm fully aware that they were not the only team that dealt with this. Houston dealt with it, Baltimore, Kansas City did as well. But you lose George Pickens due to injury. You lose Deshaun Elliott due to injury. TJ Watt gets hurt in the waning minutes of that Philadelphia game. I'm sorry, he was not right. Yes, he practiced and all this stuff, if you call those practices or glorified walkthroughs. Yeah. He's not right. Like, you're not watching the TJ Watt that we saw at the beginning of the season now because he's hurt. So my question is this simple enough as just getting people healthy, getting them back in the groove with each other? Because really, yes, you got Deshaun Elliott and George Pickens back and Dante Jackson for that Chiefs game, but you didn't have time to really practice with them. You didn't have time to get them acclimated. They had a nice, healthy break. And I wonder if that wasn't the perfect elixir for what ails them moving into the final 2 games that they're guaranteed. What's your take?
Yeah. So I look at it from the perspective, like you were mentioning, that these guys need to perform together and get in rhythm together. And like I was saying, I think the Steelers are more reliant on star power than a lot of teams are to be good. And that's on both sides of the ball. You look at how the offense just totally set the offense back when George Pickens wasn't out there. It was a game changer completely. I know they won the first game without him, but still that was a different offense entirely without him on the field. And then the one game he's been back since against the Chiefs, it still didn't look quite right. It didn't look like the chemistry was there anymore. And then on defense, you're right. TJ Watt does look slower. He looks not slower, like slowed by that injury a little bit, less explosive. And we all know, we've been talking about it all year, he gets zero help from the defensive scheme when it comes to trying to get him better opportunities and matchups. And then I look at other teams who've been dealing with injuries, Chiefs, Ravens, and, Houston's been struggling, but those teams are deeper and they have more modern schematics. Let's just be honest in the conversation there. So the Steelers need their stars. They need them healthy. They need them working together with good chemistry, in rhythm, in flow, building momentum together. That's why it's so important to me, going back to your previous question, that they all play this week against the Bengals, whether they're fighting for a division title or not.
Getting these players back, I'm telling you, people forget that before the 3-game losing streak, when everyone was healthy, and even go back post Bengals game, there were some questions on the defensive side, but everyone was saying this is a team, like you mentioned it, Jeremy. This is a team that could do some damage. They see some injuries to key components. They have the 3 games in 11 days. They don't handle that well. Let's see how they rebound. I think this is a huge springboard game for the Steelers. And the question is, and I don't know if you grew up with a trampoline. I didn't, but someone in our neighborhood did. You have this when there are 2 kids jumping on the trampoline, you can springboard them where they go flying. And then you can also deaden it. Have you ever seen someone do that where they jump and they just they're just dead? Their knees buckle and they just fall. It could be either way in week 18, but I'll be honest. I don't think that if the Steelers lose this game on Saturday night, that there's going to be much hope, even if they go somehow, some way to Houston or going to Baltimore in the wild card round. I mean, they've got to do something, even if it's just winning a shootout. They have to do something that gives fans hope. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, say the Steelers were to go out there and put up 30 plus points or something like that, and they lose, say they lose 33-30, and it was competitive, and maybe the Bengals had the ball last, and they drove down the field and scored. I mean, there's going to be people out there saying, well, there's your defense again. It's just falling apart down the stretch. So maybe there's no way to win unless you actually win the ball game. So, maybe if they don't win, it just doesn't matter, right? To some fans. But I think if they're competitive, I think if they get out there and show just a sign of life of some kind, because they haven't done that the last 3 weeks. It's been dead on arrival for Pittsburgh. At least when you're talking about Philadelphia and Kansas City, they had a little bit of life in Baltimore, I thought, but outside of maybe the first half there, it just kind of fell apart for them. So got to definitely see signs of life. Even if you don't win this game, it has to be really competitive. The Bengals are not just any 8-8 team, right? They're a really good team, I think. And outside of their defense just being really bad, I would say that beating Cincinnati or hanging with them makes you feel a little bit better about the team going into playoff weekend, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. So let's talk about these games. There's two games that we all care about. AFC North is playing on Saturday. Let's start off with Cleveland at Baltimore. The Ravens are giving 19 points in this game. That is a crazy number. They're not going to Jameis Winston. They're actually Bailey Zappi is supposed to get the start. You know him well. You interviewed him before he was drafted.
I was going to say former guest on the Steelers Fix.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think about this one? I think the question isn't do the Ravens win, but it's do they cover the 19 points?
Yeah. That's going to be the question. And I like the Browns' chances of putting up something decent and passing numbers or passing game, I guess, with Bailey Zappi as opposed to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but I still don't think it's enough. Baltimore's going to come out motivated to just kind of put the foot down, go for the jugular and end this thing early. I think they'd love to get out to a quick lead and maybe by the end of the third quarter not have to play their starters. So I wouldn't be surprised if they motor down on the Browns in this one. So I'm taking the Ravens on the spread as well.
Oh, wow. I'll take the Browns to keep it competitive. I think the Ravens, like you said, might pull some players, and maybe the Bailey Zappi, he did beat the Steelers last year. Maybe he can orchestrate some points. We'll see. All right, let's talk about the Steelers and the Bengals. The Steelers are actually getting 2 points at home in this game Saturday night, and over under of 48 points. How do you see this playing out? What's your prediction?
Man, I'm always taking Mike Tomlin as a home dog. That's just not a good situation for the other team. And for all the talk, and rightfully so, the finger pointing at him for these kind of miscues in December. I think that he knows how to right the ship when it's necessary in the regular season. We'll see about the playoffs. But I think that this game goes Pittsburgh's way, and I think that they're able to rebound in a way that is satisfactory to the fan base, to where you do think you're going into Houston or Baltimore, whatever that is. Houston, if they win, for sure, with a good chance of moving on to the divisional round. So I'm taking the Steelers. I think it'll be close. I think the Bengals are going to be game here, especially knowing that if they win, they just need a Denver loss and a Miami loss to get in. So I'm taking the Steelers in this one, though. I think that they will win a close one, another high-scoring one, not quite as high-scoring as the last time. I'm taking the Steelers 30, Bengals 28, a full push on that 2 points there.
Wow. Okay. I, too, like the Steelers in this game. Mike Tomlin, everyone says, like, oh, he's a coach that wants to put 8 pounds in a 7-pound bag, meaning he wants to have more time to prep. Say what you want about what that means from him as a game planner in general, but he's getting that extra time in this game, and I think that's valuable. I think the Steelers come out. I think the offense plays a smarter, cleaner brand of football. I don't think the Bengals defense is good at all. I like the Steelers to put up over 30 points. I like them 34-28 in this game, which is well over the over of 48. And the Steelers getting 2 points. Shoot, take them on the money line. I think they do win. I think they get that springboard and they move into the postseason with a little bit of hope. And we'll see if they can pull something off crazy in the playoffs. But Jeremy, real quick, what do you have going on at Fans First Sports Network and the Steel Curtain Network?
Yeah, definitely check out all the podcasts. The Steelers Fix. We kind of talked about what I wrote about as well. How bad could it get if the Steelers were to lose out? What does that look like for the team? We also talked about their ceiling as well. So there's some positive in this, just based on what we've seen the last few weeks out of them. Check out the Draft Dynasty podcast. We're diving hard and fast into draft prep here as the NFL season winds down, and a lot of teams are going to be looking towards Mobile and the Combine in the coming months to get their feet on the ground with when it comes to the draft. So we'll be covering a lot of that. And then, check out Fans First Sports Network. I'm going to have another How We Got Here article coming out by the end of this week as well. So stay tuned to all of that. It's a lot of fun and staying up on all these teams, including our black and gold.
There you go. Jeremy, as always, thanks and enjoy the game. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
Have a good one, Jeff.